Warner had just about enough cash in the bank to do 2 movies, promote and release 2 movies before the end of 22. And they picked the very safe, not at all controversial Don't Worry Darling, which had no problems behind the scenes. There were no issues with the director and the cast, and none of that happened. And they picked a superhero movie. They had one in the can, which was The Flash.
Batgirl.
They had 2 in the can. They had one in the can which was fully finished, and one which didn't have any effects but still looked pretty good. They ditched one of them in the bin completely. We don't talk about it anymore in case there's a lawsuit, because we want our tax incentives. And the other one was Flash, based on Flashpoint, redoing the whole DC universe, ready to go, but its star, Flash, is in trouble, is being threatened with jail time. So they decided not to release either of those and instead release the super popular, very well known Black Adam, who is not related to either Blue Beetle or Blue Peter. But is Black Adam, is it the saving grace of the universe? I mean, I know that the end credits is probably the saving grace of DC, but no spoiler there, because I'm not talking about who was in there. But anyway, is it?
Well, look, I think it's safe to say when the trailers came out for Black Adam, we were all just shaking our heads and going, "Oh no, that looks terrible," and the trailers did look terrible. So suffice to say, going in there with very low expectations, I came out pleasantly surprised.
Good.
It was I mean, there's no beating about the bush. There's an awful lot wrong with it. Too many characters crammed in. It tries to introduce an entire justice society in the middle of another film without so much as a "who are you? What can you do? Who are you again? What can you do again?" And it's got its terrible problem in its third act with its villain that is so half-baked. He's not even introduced until the final 15 minutes. However, it's fun. It almost pains me to say it. There's an awful lot of smashy, crashy, CG sploffing everywhere. But it's got a sense of gleeful abandon to it. There's a streak of real envelope-pushing 12A violence in it. I mean, there's a few things. I took my 12-year-old, hi Ava, and even she was wincing. She watches anything. But there's some kills in it which are proper. They're not out of place in the latest Blumhouse type. 15.
Well, it was R-rated originally, wasn't it?
And God knows what they took out of it. But blimey, Charlie, it's grim. But it gives it a sort of sense of naughtiness. You feel like, oh, I shouldn't be laughing at that guy who's got ripped in half, because this is a cuddly, shiny rock movie. And it helps. It cast very, very well. Aldous Hodges is the standout. Him and Pierce Brosnan have a really good sort of old school. It's a bit like Logan and Professor X kind of relationship. It's earned, it's lived in, and both are really good. And surprisingly, The Rock has quite a nice little antagonistic bromance with Aldous Hodge all the way through, which adds a nice little frisson, shall we say? And of course, Mr. Johnson himself. Well, yeah. I'm sure. I mean, I have no skin in the game when it comes to the character from the comics. I don't know him from, ironically, Adam, but I imagine he needs lots of shades of grey to get into the soul of this anti-hero. And unfortunately, that's not Mr. Johnson's forte. Mr. Johnson is either scowling uber villain or eyebrow-raising sarcasm machine.
Is he a scowling uber villain?
Well, he is in the first 20 minutes when he's very grumpily woken up from his 5,000 year slumber. And let's face it,
wouldn't be.
We'd all be a little bit like that.
It's basically like Fast Five, when Hobbs is really grumpy at the beginning and just wants to pound Vin Diesel into the ground.
But then imagine if
come the end, he's like,
a little bit. Yeah, a little
Okay.
bit. But imagine if in the opening he actually got Diesel, pounded him into the ground, ripped his arms and legs off, ripped him in two, and then basically,
I think that was
did
the
it again.
reason that was in the plot, but that they fell out. So
Yeah,
Vin Diesel wasn't going along with it.
Such a candy ass.
Yeah.
To sum it all up, look, it is, whichever way you look at it, it is a dazzlingly generic superhero origin movie. It's got far too many characters in. Its plot is so thinly drawn. Its villain is virtually non-existent. But it shows the benefit of having a really good cast and a film that can wink at itself and nod at itself and do so with a little bit of naughty nudge nudge wink wink. Not in that sense of the word. So it's a fun night out. I don't begrudge spending 2 hours of my time watching it one bit.
Okay.
And what I will say is the mid-credit stinger. I have not seen a cinema go that bug nuts insane since probably Avengers Endgame, if I'm honest. The cinema erupted into crowds and whoops and cheers and things.
I mean, it is a game changer. And it's so funny that they shot it without a face on the body.
We're skirting close. We're skirting close to spoilers now.
That'll do. They shot it without a face on the body. That's how close it came to not being a crowds and cheers and whoop whoop. Yeah. Because any other face on that body
could have been yours, Kaz.
Yeah, could have been. They could have had it. That's it. Proper. It'd be crowd cheers and whoops from 3 people on the podcast.